to get your book. I'm really excited to. Everybody's coming out with books lately, like you and Penny Rummel and
Mhm.
gosh, I don't know who else, but I know a bunch of other books are coming out. It's really exciting.
Yeah, Tom had another one out this spring, and
Exactly.
yeah, Penny's book is awesome. You're going to have to check that one out.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to work on the sequel to mine this winter here. So the first one was about the stuff that I've experienced around the cabin, and the next one's going to be about what happens when I go camping. So,
So, well, let me see. I didn't write any questions down. I just figured you and I are pretty comfortable with each other, so we might as well just have a little chit chat. But
okay.
I want to I do want to tell you a bit about my trip because I had some crazy experiences. I don't would you like to hear while I'm interviewing
Sure.
you all about myself?
Sure.
All right. Okay. I kind of want some I don't know, maybe some advice or something. I'm not sure cuz sometimes stuff happens and at the time you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible. This totally just happened." And then I went with a couple of friends of mine camping to the Gifford Pinchot National Forest over by Carson, Washington,
Okay.
and had some experiences. And then the next day, my friends were like, "Oh no, that was just mice. That was
Oh,
possums. It was raccoons on the roof or in the chimney or whatever." And
okay.
a week later, I'm like, "I know this really happened, but I don't know. It's weird. Isn't it weird how your brain works? Like you could have something really incredible happen, and then just give your brain a couple of days to rationalize it, and it's like raccoons on the roof and under the
Yeah.
house and making giant footsteps. I don't know. It's anyway,
And any explanation except for what you think it is, or what you probably
right?
really know it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I told my friends the next day. I even showed them like the what is it, the Bigfoot map, because I took some screenshots and I was like, "Look at this, you guys." And they're like, "Oh, you think everything's ghosts? You think everything's Bigfoot, Gina?" And I was like, "Well, sometimes it is.
Yep.
Sometimes."
And honestly, that's the kind of thing that people that don't know anything say.
Yeah.
Once you're a knower, it's just as likely to be a Sasquatch as it is anything else. They are there and they're not particularly rare. And when you go into a place like where you were at down by Carson, that's a highly active area. So
Mm.
you haven't told me what exactly happened yet, but if you think that it was not mice and a not raccoon, um, I'd say stick with your gut instinct on what you thought it was first.
Quacks like a Sasquatch, walks like a
Yeah.
Sasquatch.
Yep.
Um, well, I'll tell you what happened. So we went out to, and I knew this area was really active, and I got this cabin kind of. I don't know why. I just felt really pulled towards it. I saw the picture. I was on recreation.gov and looking at cabins, because I was going to visit some friends and we were going to go camping. But I saw this particular cabin in this place that I'd never been to, and something told me like you have to get it. Get it. We want you here. And so I rented the cabin for a couple of days and told my friend where it was at. And she was like, "I love that place. I love it. I've been there several times. I love it." And I was like, "Okay, well, that's great because I've never been there." So I get to the airport, get a hotel, stay the night. And then we packed up and came to the cabin the next day. And it was kind of late by the time we got there. Sun was setting. And we just unpacked and ate a couple snacks, and the place didn't have any, it was like a vault toilet and like had gas lamps, like lamps on the wall, which I had never seen before. It took us a little while to figure it out. But the place is really old. It's from, I think it was built in the 30s, and it was for back when the Forest Service had to like watch for fires.
Oh,
And
so it was
so
a guard station.
yeah, it was a guard station right
Yeah.
by the mineral springs, the government mineral
Okay.
springs. And so anyway, I didn't really expect anything. I don't know. I didn't have any expectations, but I was like, let's see what happens. And so my friends, as I said, they're not very into, anything spiritual. I mean, maybe they are very empathic and they're very intuitive, but they're not necessarily into spirituality or anything. They're really old friends. And so it was kind of just a reunion, and we were going to go hiking and stuff. And so that night we just got settled in, and I was so tired. I was so jet lagged that I just passed out on the futon. My friends put together a puzzle and talked for a while, and then they were like, "Okay, we're going to bed." So they went upstairs. The cabin had two bedrooms, and they were sleeping each in one. And I was sleeping on the futon. And then all of us, I was dead tired. I was exhausted. I'm almost 50 and I don't fly very often. So I'm, I get somewhere and I'm just like plumb tuckered. So anyway, so I was asleep and then all of a sudden I snapped awake and I was like, what was that? Oh my gosh, something's here. Like something real. I don't know. It was a really weird feeling. It was like not scared, but just completely alert. And I was like, something is here. And then I heard boom, 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 and it stops right behind my head. There was a window, and it stopped, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? What is going on? I'd never heard anything like that before, and
Like boom,
I
boom,
just
as in footsteps?
yeah, like fit like huge, big booming footsteps. I had never heard anything like that before. All of the contact, I mean, they came and banged on my roof one time and it scared me so bad I asked them to never do it again and they never did. And that was like as far as the noises go around here. I'll hear a lot of they sound like coyotes a lot sometimes or they'll mimic other sounds, but I don't usually hear anything like that, especially that close. It was like I don't know, 5 feet away. It was crazy. And my heart was
That
just
was
like,
on purpose. That was
ah,
totally on purpose. Because if they'd have wanted to come and peek in the window without you knowing about it, they could have been totally silent. So that was
exactly.
intentional.
Yeah. But that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, I don't know these guys. Maybe they don't want me here. Maybe they're mad. I didn't know. So I just said in my mind, I was like, you guys are really scaring me. Could you please not be so loud, And I kept saying that. And then I felt this energy come through my crown into the heart. And like the fear got sucked out. It was really weird. All of a sudden I was like, I really felt like this like vacuum of like it just sucked the energy out. And I was like, wow, I'm not scared anymore. Okay, I can deal with this. And then I fell asleep. And then I woke up again and I heard more booming footsteps. And by that time I was like, okay, I can't do this. I got to go upstairs. I just, I couldn't. I was so tired and freaked out. And so I went upstairs as quietly as I could. I tried not to wake up my friends and I snuck into the bunk bed with one of them. She was still asleep. And as soon as I put my head down, uh, all of a sudden I heard, Gina, are you okay? Do you hear something outside? Something's walking around the cabin. And I told her, I was like, I don't hear anything because I didn't want to freak her out any more than she already was. And I was scared too. So I was like, I don't hear anything. Just go to bed. And somehow we all fell back asleep. But in the morning, everybody was like, what was that? What was that? That was crazy. It was so loud. And I told them, I was like, well, here's the map and here's what I think it is. And I think my friends were just they were really frazzled. And so they were like, you think everything's ghosts. But you could tell it was on all of our minds the whole day. And we went to there's a mineral springs, like a hot springs in Carson, I think, with like a
Uh-huh.
hotel, and I'm sure you know where it is. And we went to the
Mhm.
hot springs and we went on a hike. We went to some waterfall. We filled our day with activities. And by the time we got home, I felt like a wet noodle. I was so tired and just like I have to go to bed. And my friends actually, they were still so nervous by the time the sun came down. They both took Benadryl. They're like, we just want to pass out. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, they were super freaked out. And then we were like putting a puzzle together or something, and we started hearing it again outside, like this like shuffling around and rustling and boom boom, shuffle shuffle. And my friends were like, oh, that's what it is. It's mice. It's
Ah, yeah,
really
because
you're
mice have a lot of booming sounds. They're known for it.
right. Yeah, that's exactly what they sound like. But yeah, I was just like, okay, that whatever, who knows. But so I went to bed upstairs because I was over it. I'm like, I'm not going to get spied on while I sleep. I just want to sleep. Like, just give me one night. But I woke up at like 4:30 in the morning with this nudge to go outside. Like, you go outside right now. You have to go. And so I went outside and there was a big white orb that was like floating through the trees.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, it
That
was
was a serious
beautiful.
introduction that they gave you there.
It was so nice. I loved it. Yeah. And I was all tearing up and I was all, thank you, thank you. And then my friend comes outside. She's like, are you okay? And she went to the bathroom and I was like, come here and look at this. And she's like, what? What is it? I'm like, it's an orb. Look at this. And she's like, no, it's just a star, and just went inside. And I'm like, all right, whatever.
Ah, okay.
You don't think
Yeah.
there's any magic in the world? That's fine.
Yeah, that's okay. It's not for everybody, but
Yeah.
congratulations. I think that's awesome. I think you were called to that cabin. I think they were there the whole time you were there, and
Right.
being shown that orb like that, especially when they get your attention because it's there. It's like hey, wake up. This is something you got to see. You don't want to miss this. Now's your chance.
Right.
Hurry up. Come on. It's that kind of a thing. And
Right.
I've had that experience before myself where, the big orb is there and they're trying to get you to turn around and look. So they
Yeah,
know.
the whole trip was so magical. Like I went to Mount Tabor with Ashley, and it was sad because the Service people, they destroyed a lot of the structures, like almost all
Oh
of them.
no.
Yeah, they put
Really?
all the
Why?
I don't know. I have no idea. We just got there, and all the stumps were like turned up, and all they were clearing all of the structure debris, I guess,
Oh,
material. Yeah, it was sad. But
well, that's
I
just
mean,
sad.
yeah, it was. But we could tell that they were rebuilding because there was another section where they started to rebuild some stuff. So I feel like it was a good kind of personal lesson for both of us that, like, everything changes, everything ends and begins, and it's
Yeah.
okay. They'll just rebuild. They have
Yeah.
endless materials over there. So
Eventually, weather and, just wear would have decomposed them anyway,
mm,
but it's kind of sad that, because they're like works of art, that
they are gorgeous.
to to
I
intentionally
really
take them
want.
down. It's just wrong.
Yeah, I do feel like it, but I don't know. People don't. I guess people don't realize what they are, and
No, they don't. If you don't have a clue, if you're not already aware of what's happening, then your brain's not going to go there. It's not going to be among the options that you choose from. So it's
right.
going to be everything but.
Hmm,
And but even then, it's still pretty neat. I mean, even if they thought humans made all that stuff, it's still they were beautiful.
they were
But
beautiful.
not everybody sees it that way. But like you said, they will rebuild.
Yeah, yeah. I feel I for some reason I didn't really get that they were too sad about it, but yeah, I was sad because I really wanted to see those structures, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
Well,
Maybe in the future.
fortunately, Ashley has some really great footage and pictures, and she has them really well documented.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Have you been over there?
no, I think I'm going to go down in a couple of weeks and check it out, though. But it makes me kind of sad that they're dismantled. But
Yeah.
no, I haven't been there.
Well, I have one more story, and this is about Forest Park in Portland. I'm sure you've been there.
No,
Oh, really? Okay.
oh,
This is a good one. So, this park it's in the middle of Portland, and I think it was started in the late 1800s or the early 1900s, but it's like 80 miles of trails. The place is huge. It's enormous, and it's in the
wow.
middle of the city. It's right next to it's over the bridge by Savi Island, I want to say. And
I'm not familiar
anyway,
with it.
mm, well, it's enormous, and I had been there back in 2016 with my wife, and I even lived in Portland for like a good year and a half, and I had no idea it was there. So we went and checked it out, and it was gorgeous, and so I planned to come back this time. And I got nudged a couple of times to go there. Like that was going to be one of the like focal points of going there. And so I had the day to myself, and I rented a car. So I was driving around, and I'm like, oh, I'll go to Forest Park and see what it is, see what's up. And I get there, and I walk up to there's a big sign for it, and I was going to take a picture for my wife to tell her that I was there. I took a picture, and as soon as I did, I heard this, and this is exactly what it sounded like. It was like this
Oh,
gibberish,
nice.
and it was all echoey and just like yeah. It was, and silly me, I assumed it was like a human having a hard time. I was
Oh,
like, well, it must be some. So I hope whoever did that is okay. But I got the nudge to do some like land clearing. So I found a little spot and I started doing my thing. And while I was doing this land clearing, I felt all of these beings come in and help me and kind of give me a boost and, help out. And then I started hearing branches snapping and stuff like walking around behind, like underneath me. I was on this kind of really steep hill. It was probably about a 30-foot drop. But I started hearing that and I was like, wait a second, are they here too? And yeah, I said in my mind, I was like, "Can you
yeah,
make that noise again?" And I got not safe. So I was like, "Okay, that's fine." But yeah, that was incredible. I couldn't believe they were there too. But I mean, they can hang out wherever they want to, I guess.
yeah, pretty much. And I
Yeah.
think there's a lot more of them out there than anybody really thinks.
Yeah.
Because if they can just wander amongst us without being seen, Yeah, there's no limits. We can't even begin to speculate on how many there are because we can only base that on what we experience, and we're only experiencing just a tiny percentage of what there is. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think they're pretty much anywhere. And when you go into any place in the woods like that, looking for an interaction or an experience or footprint, any reason that you're going into the woods that has anything to do with them, I think it's because they've drawn you to that place because they are there.
Mm.
So, I mean, nobody gets drawn to the desert to go look for Sasquatch. So,
Right.
you know, they're there.
Right.
They're going to draw
Yeah.
you to it. Yeah, they know who's interested in them and who has an open mind and who's who's the right person to show themselves to. And
Right.
it's like that with our group, the people that they send to us, like Angelique, it's they just know who the right people are that need to be with us. And so I think, we all have our own, like, I don't know whether they're guides or just whoever we've come across that is attached to us or how it works, but they have a way of connecting people and putting us in the right place at the right time. And so you just never know what's going to happen next, but something is going to happen. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I feel like this whole journey that I've started with the podcast, and particularly when I decided to focus more on the Sasquatch people, because in the beginning I had this idea that I was going to do some sort of, I don't know, like variety show or something like that. And it wasn't working. It totally wasn't working. People weren't getting back to me. Stuff was like being delayed. It didn't feel like it was working. And then I had this realization one day that, hey, all of this stuff is happening to you and it's actually really special, and it's not every day that this sort of stuff happens to people, and so maybe you should start talking about that more. And so the minute I started to focus more on these interactions that I'm having with these guys, everything has worked out. And I've made
mhm.
incredible friends, like you're awesome. Sam Chandler is an amazing human being.
I
Ashley,
love
just
Sam and
yeah.
Ashley. Yeah.
I love Angelique. I had such a great time talking to her, just shooting the ball.
Yeah,
She's a
he
great
was awesome
person.
to have in camp with us. Sam is
Yeah.
amazing. Ashley's amazing. They're some of my favorite people to be in the woods with.
Hmm.
There's just just even if nothing was to happen while we were out there, just being with them, is amazing. Their
Right.
energy, that what they bring with them it just feels good to be around them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was tromping around at Mount Tabor with Ashley, and it had just rained a bunch, and I slid down this muddy hill. And I just felt like we were just like little kids playing around, playing with sticks and
Wow.
rocks. And like, it was so, I seriously, it was, the connections that I've made with people has been incredible. So I'm really thankful. And I'm thankful for you too to come on to the show,
Yeah.
and let's talk about your
Well,
book.
thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what would you like to know?
What's your book about?
Oh, well, it's basically my journey through from the beginning when I was a kid, figuring out that there was a reason for me to be in the woods, a need for me to be in the woods, and first discovering that the Sasquatch are something that is out there. Something, I was at Mount St. Helens around a campfire as a little kid when the park rangers from the Forest Service started telling stories, and I was fascinated.
Yeah,
And then,
I would be too.
from there, yeah, well, it became kind of a lifelong thing. Back then, there wasn't a lot of information. Every now and then a TV show would come out, or you might find a few pages in a book dedicated to Sasquatch. And, I ate all that up.
Mm,
And then, I was drawn to the mountains as a young adult. And my first experiences that I didn't realize what was happening at the time. I found a perfect footprint and some broken trees, and a few more years go by, and then I got a little Sasquatch that's jumping through the trees over my cabin, and then that few more years go by, and I've got the vocalizations that I heard outside here, and I started talking to my neighbors and other people in the community, and then I went up on the mountain behind the cabin and got to hear talking and saw one follow the elk, and back then I was still kind of thinking they were pretty, rare, that these experiences were just with individuals who are on their way to more remote places.
mm,
So it's not just the story of my experiences, which there are a lot. The book kind of just lists from one to another to another to another, but it's the journey of understanding, going from being somebody who believed they were another form of wildlife to understanding that they're really a different kind of people, and they're more advanced than we are in so many ways. You know, they have abilities that I think we lost when we left the forest and started living inside and building fires, and but they kept they kept the natural things that they were given, the gifts, and they've developed them to a beyond anything that we can really understand right now. And so that's kind of where the book leads to, is my journey from beginning to where I am now. And then when I start working on the sequel, I'm gonna pick up kind of where I left off there and start talking about what happens when I get away from the cabin and when I go out in the woods and go camping. So it'll just be a continuation, pretty much, in the sequel.
I can't wait to go camping with you guys. I feel like it's gonna be incredible, honestly.
It is.
Yeah, I feel like it would be such a different experience to get out there and to be with a bunch of like-hearted people who kind of have more of an understanding of what's going on in the woods, and to be able to have those interactions with a group of really great people would be super awesome. And I feel like I would be way less scared.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's
I
great. Not
oh,
only are we a support group for each other, but we each bring our own energy, our own experiences, and our own, teachers or guides, or however you see them or want to refer to them. But all that comes with you to camp. So the collective energy is greater than the sum. I think the Sasquatch look forward to it as much as we do. And,
oh
when
yeah.
we all come together, it's just one thing after another. Most of the time, the whole group area is pretty much there for hanging around and going, this is what happened last night, or this just happened when I was over there, or this just happened when I was going out to my truck, or, there's even just sitting around the fire. A few years ago, we started reading stories to them about themselves, reading Sasquatch reports and telling stories about the Sasquatch, because they love to hear about themselves, particularly
They
if it's
do.
an experience where they are heroic, where they've done something that's
Oh,
awesome,
yeah.
so they appreciate being appreciated.
Oh
So,
man.
yeah, a lot of groups go out and think of themselves as Bigfoot hunters, but we don't do that. We just kind of, we do go night walking if you want to. No problem there, but it's usually the people back at camp that get to have the awesome experience. And yeah, are as excited about the campouts as we are. In the days ahead, activity will pick up around my cabin. And usually when the camp out is over, I get home and I've got a thumbs up, some kind of a gift or a sign that says, yeah, it was awesome. And yeah, so as time has gone on, the activity has just really escalated around our camps. And it's not just the Sasquatch either. We've got the fairies too. So
Oh
I
yeah.
can only imagine what else is out there that we just don't even know about yet. There's a lot of other things in I don't know whether they're beyond the veil and can come through to our side, or they're just always here, or how it works, but there's a lot going on out there. And once you become
Yeah.
aware, then you get more and more of it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam was telling me, what was it? The last time he was at the camp, he thought he had a dog man over by his tent.
Yeah. I'll have to send you the picture of the track I found out behind my cabin here in
Oh,
July when
really?
I got back from the blues. Some people are telling me it's wolf, but it's really bigger than a wolf track. And it also has like a wrist and it has claws that are up that long. And it's,
No
it's,
way.
I've got a picture of my hand next to it, and it is much, much bigger than my hand. So,
Wow.
I take Goldie up the trail at night to go potty, and, she gets her sniffing done and takes her time. And, I never worry about going up there. But that one night, we walked past that track and I looked at that and I was like, oh, heck no. Okay, Goldie, wrap it up. It's time to go back.
Wow. Yeah. That is intense.
Yeah.
Um, okay. I really don't want to make this whole interview about myself, but I have another story I have to tell you because I want to
Go
get
right
I want
ahead.
I want to get your opinion. Um,
Okay.
so what was this happened in between the two eclipses? What was it, last month or something? Feels like a year ago. But it was by the it was a few days before the equinox, I want to say. But anyway, I have this area that I go to. It's a trailhead that's about 6 minutes away from my house. And that's where I do most of I'll go there almost every night to hang out and tell my friends about my day and skywatch and stuff. And so this particular period of time, this week, I was seeing crazy amounts of orbs in the woods, in the tree line and in the sky, and just having lots of interactions. And so I was on my way there, and it's a pretty windy road, and then it kind of straightens out and goes over this little bridge, and then you're there. And I got to the straight part, and I saw something in my headlights. I couldn't really understand what it was. I still have no idea what it was. There are deer over there all the time. So at first I was like, is that like a doe? Is that, because it was smaller than a full-size deer. It was lower, but I couldn't really understand what it was because the shape was long and it was brown. And all I remember seeing are big shoulders, like big burly shoulders, and it was lower down to the ground. And before I could really like focus on it, an orb shot out through around my car. And I was like, whoa, orb. And then I looked and it's gone. And I was like, what the heck was that? Because the whole month beforehand, I had heard from my chiropractor that somebody had gotten a mountain lion on their trail cam in those woods. And so I kind of had it in my mind. I was like, oh, I don't want to go too far into the woods at night because who knows what I would encounter. And I had been thinking about that leading up to the past couple of days before I saw that. And so I have no idea what that was. I don't know. I've heard Sam told me that he either saw this or someone else had seen it, where the Sasquatch people can like walk on their fingers. And I was like, maybe it was something like
Wow.
that. I don't know. Have
Well,
you
I
heard
know
that?
they can. I don't know about walking on their fingers necessarily, but I know that they
Yeah.
can get really close to the ground, really flat on the ground, and almost do like a crab walk type thing
Yeah.
where their
Right.
legs spread out sideways.
Mm.
I think their hips are different, and so they can scurry across the ground really flat. And yeah, I think it's something like that. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it was. Like my brain won't let me remember what it was. It's like maybe it was so weird that like my brain's like, nope, maybe next year. Maybe sometime in the future you'll get to remember. But yeah, I was like, I know that they can shapeshift into whatever they want. So maybe they were like, haha, we'll play a little trick on you and we'll look like a
Yeah.
mountain lion. I don't know. But it was weird that the orb like shot out in front of my car. I was like, nope, you're not going to see that. Look at the orb.
Yeah. I wonder if that was a distraction or how that worked. Or maybe the orb was just traveling with it and said, "Oh no, look over here." Just that's
I
really
don't know.
interesting. I don't
Yeah.
know either.
I mean, so the one that I have the most physical interaction with, it's a family group that I interact with, but the one that I have seen physically the most is the juvenile. So I'm thinking maybe he was playing some sort of prank on me. I don't know. I'm not
You
sure.
know, it might be a prank, but it could also be, a learning experience for him, practicing something new, or passing a
Oh yeah.
test, see what I can get away with, it's like the things they do, you got to wonder, it's so creative when they do it that it's like, they
Mhm.
must have a blast putting their heads together, just cracking up over what'll they do if I do this?
Right.
How are they going to take it if I do this? It's like
Mhm.
it never fails to blow me away because first, it never happens when you're expecting something. And second, what happens is something that you would never imagine, is even a possibility. So,
Right.
um, we had a camp a couple of years ago where we were right on the side of the river and we had a shelter over the top of us with a hole over the fire and then a sidewall to keep the breeze off. And I'm sitting there with my back to the sidewall and I look over and at the edge of the sidewall, I see this arm with hand come out, but I don't see the arm. I see the shadow of a hand and an arm come out.
Mm.
And I tapped on Lee's shoulder and said, look, look. And, she's looking. And by that time, most of the arm had disappeared. So it was just like forearm and hand. And they're just the shadow. And it starts doing jazz hands. And we're looking around the fire here at everybody, and she's like, "Okay, everybody, wave your hand." And Russ, Penny's husband, is sitting there, and he's like, "Well, clearly none of us are waving our hands now, so it's not us." But we did. We waved our hands, did this, and it didn't change what we were seeing at all. So I mean, how do they come up with an idea like that? Just something.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I think they just enjoy the heck out of entertaining us.
I think so too. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a story I heard about what was it, ghost cars or something at one of your camps? I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
remembering stories that other
That was
people
the
have told
same
me.
camp. That was the
Oh,
same
really?
one. Well, the first time we went there, it was very strange because we're where we put our group area is it's a flat area in the trees, but the river's right here, and then the mountainside goes up. And we'd been there for probably 4 or 5 days, and Lee comes walking into the group area, and she looks up and she goes, "Oh, I never didn't even notice the road was right there." And I said, "No, the road's not right there. There's a little trail comes up from another campsite that goes up across the hillside there, but no, there's no road there." And she's like, "Yeah, I just saw cars." And I'm like, "No, you couldn't have. There's no road there. There's a trail. There's no road." And she's like, "Yeah, I just saw cars." And I'm like, "You couldn't have." And then there were cars. It was two cars passing each other on the curb. There was brake lights, tail
You
lights,
saw this?
headlights, guardrail, the whole works. And I'm like, "Well, I'll be darned, there's a road there." Well, then, but there really wasn't a road there because when we went up there and looked, you actually have to go up and over the top of the mountain and down the other side to get to where the pavement is. There's nothing but a dead end dirt trail right
What the
there.
heck?
So it was, I don't know whether that was a spatial shift or a time shift or what, but so that would have been, I think, 3 years ago well, this month, 3 years ago in October. And then when we were back there in June again, the people that were there, we've all agreed that what we saw doesn't fit what's there because
Hmm.
the road that we saw was so close to us that if anybody would have missed that corner, they would have like landed on our tents right on us right there. But to look at it in the daylight, that hillside is actually back like another couple hundred feet. There's even if that road was there in the trees and somebody missed the corner, there's no way that, those vehicles could have landed on us. It was set back much farther than what the vision or illusion or whatever it was that we saw. And
Right.
then in June, when it started to happen again, it was like farther down it was back on the mountainside, but farther upriver by a couple hundred feet. And it started out as just like a red dot appeared up there. And I mean, this is nowhere near the road. This is even beyond where the end of the trail is. So it's solid hillside. There is nothing there except trees, and it's steep
Yeah.
too.
Wow.
So there's just the red dot appears. And I saw that. So I just kept watching. And a few minutes later, the red dot appeared again and it kind of it turned on and then went dot, dot, dot through the trees. Okay. So then the next night, I'm kind of just keeping my eye on that spot. And at the same place, there was kind of like a pale grayish light that just kind of appeared and started to just expand a little bit, kind of like if headlights were coming down the road and illuminating something way ahead of it. But then
Hmm.
it just kind of petered out and nothing really came of it. And a little while later, it started to come back again with this dull gray light, just kind of started to expand as though headlights were coming. And then in the middle of it, the red light came back on again. And then the whole thing just kind of went dot, dot, dot through the trees. And so it was almost like it was trying to manifest the vehicles again, but it just couldn't quite fully do it. And Terry was sitting next to me when that part of it happened. And to her, she, even though she didn't actually see the vehicle, she had the impression that it was like an old uh, convertible Cadillac, the big, long, low cars.
Oh,
So
yeah.
to her, that was kind of the impression that she had of what was going through the trees up there. And even though there was not an actual vehicle, it was just the lights. That's the shape of what she saw that gave her that impression. And then she sent me a message the next day after they had left camp. And when she got into Enumclaw, she couldn't believe it. There was a car exactly like that was pulled over sitting along the highway down in Enumclaw. She said it was just one of those huge old long Cadillacs and the top
Those
was
big
down. It was
70s ones.
convertible. And yeah, uh-huh.
What
She's
the
like, "That's what I
heck?
saw was on the hillside."
Wha-
So I
Yeah,
don't
how
know
do
if
they
it's a
put this stuff
spatial shift
together?
or yeah, time shift. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it
Gosh.
happened, and it wasn't just like one of us seeing it, it was all of us.
Yeah.
So, a group,
Well, I wonder
group
if they were
something,
practicing. I wonder if
maybe,
they were trying to, yeah, I don't know. Have you ever had a full on conversation with a Sasquatch where you could just ask them whatever you wanted?
No, I have asked and I've had responses, but I've never been able to have a two-way conversation. I look forward
Yeah.
to the day when I can. I
I
I
know
believe
you're
that's
writing a
coming.
book. You're writing a
I
whole
know.
book of a list of weird things that happen. You're like, how did this happen? I'm like, why did you do that? That's so bizarre.
Well, and it was really enlightening to write the book because in the years that have gone by, when you're first having your first experiences, you you assign certain meaning to things, you define them as this or that, but then as time goes on, you learn more and your perspective changes. And the way that I viewed things back then isn't exactly the way that I would view them now. So it was kind of eye-opening for me that how much things have changed, and how my own thought processes have changed.
Right.
And it's there was a lot going on in the early years that I didn't realize. When you think about things in your mind, and how the time has gone by, and how the changes have happened in the way that you see it, I didn't realize how many other small things were in there that were affecting that. I thought there was, like there was this big event and this big event and this big event, and wow, okay, I'm seeing things differently. But actually, there was a lot more going on, a lot of little things that was in between that I think, it was part of the process. So that when I finally did get to that point when I was ready to open my mind and say, okay, this is all real, it was a lot more solid in my psyche. It wasn't just based on these certain things. There was a lot of little stuff in between that cemented it. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess it kind of primes it,
Mhm.
for expansion because yeah, so a lot of this stuff can be really jarring.
It really
You know what I
can.
mean? Like,
Yeah, or confusing, you know?
extremely
It's
confusing, or it could cause you to just completely doubt yourself and shut down.
Well,
And
that's what's so great about having a group where you have the support system. So you're not alone in this.
right.
When people used to come into the store and you could see it on their faces, somebody's been out camping or just driving and they saw something. But they'd come in, they'd see the sign on the front of the store, report all your Bigfoot encounters here. And you can see it in their eyes, you can hear it in their voice when they've been affected by something. And the number one thing that I could do for any of them was just to tell them they're not alone in this, that they're not the only ones. Because people come in thinking, I've lost my mind, I am completely crazy, this isn't real, this thing happened to me, and it can't be. But
Hmm.
to be able to just walk in and have somebody tell them, you're not alone, means the world.
Oh,
Just to know that you're not
absolutely.
the only person is a lot. So having the support system of our whole group is just a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I have not met one person in this area that has had an experience, or at least,
uh,
that was willing to tell me.
that talks about
And
it. Yeah.
yeah, and I've lived here for about 3 years now. And I remember when I started first seeing those little tiny bare footprints in the snow out in the middle of nowhere on this logging trail, and just I
Uh,
couldn't even take a picture of it because my brain was like, no, this isn't this. It's got to be like a melted, like snow melted into this shape. And
or a
I don't
clump
know,
fell out
my
of a tree and just made that. you
right,
know.
right. Like maybe it's dog footprint that somehow got melted and like, no, come on,
See,
guys.
you're
No, it's not.
rationalizing. But when you have
Exactly.
when it's not on the list of explanations, any other explanation is better. But
Yeah,
once you know that they're real, then it's as likely to be a Sasquatch as anything else.
right.
Once you're a knower.
Yeah, and they definitely wanted me to know that they were real and wanted to work with me because after the footsteps, that's when the banging on the roof happened. And they were
Oh,
really, yeah, they were really insistent. They wanted me to work with them and work with the land. And I had this idea that these beings were just an energy or like an archetype or something. I was like, oh, they're like leprechauns or dragons or something. And now I know it's all real. But
uh-huh.
at first I was like, oh, it's got to be this. I'm not really sure what the idea was I had in my head. But then this really concrete stuff started happening, and I was definitely not. I mean, I guess I was ready because they knew I was ready and they contacted me. But at first, I had no one to talk to, and that's kind of one of the reasons I started this channel was because I felt very isolated and kind of crazy and didn't know who to talk to. So I was just like, well, I'll just find people online and have conversations with them and see what they think. So
Well, that's a
that's pretty much how
beautiful
it
way to
started.
do it. Yeah. Well, it's all part of this big plan, I think, where there's certain people that I don't know how long this has been, how long these plans have been being formed, but they just seem to know who to reach out to and how to connect us. And, like they'll put that thought into your head, start a podcast. I
Right.
think way back when they put the thought into my head, hey, make some videos, call it Barb and Gold or Barb and Gabby, squatching with Barb and Gabby. Yeah, that'll work.
Right.
So, it's like half the things in my book, I don't feel like I actually did myself. That's like, I feel like I was writing, and then there was just like somebody outside the window that was, like doing the psychic tap on the shoulder and saying, "Don't forget to tell them this." You know?
Yeah. And I just want to say that your video with the little baby footsteps, that meant so much to me. It was very symbolic. It really meant a lot because I had never seen well, for it was just on so many different levels. Like it couldn't be a Bigfoot; they're tiny. It couldn't be this. It couldn't be that. What's going on here? And that was like the very first thing that I started seeing that started my brain wheels spinning. And then finally, to I found your channel, and there were tiny little footprints, and you were like, "Oh yeah, those are the little guys, and they were over here and over there." And I was like, "Oh, someone else has seen them too."
I know, you're not alone.
Yes, it really meant a lot. It did. And so that's when I contacted you. And I'm really glad I did because you're a very nice person and you're fun to talk to. But
Well, I'm glad
also,
you did too, because you are also a very nice person who's fun to
I
talk
am.
to.
I
So
really
the
am.
universe put us together here like this.
Yes. And I wanted to ask you, do you, do you have any theories as to why they want to work with us so much lately? I feel like when I'm on social media or YouTube or whatever, I feel like a lot of these kind of more spiritual people are all of a sudden talking about their experiences with Sasquatch. I'm seeing it all. I mean, I'm sure it's my algorithm too, but like, I feel like more people are talking about this. Do you think
I
there's
think
any
there
bigger
are.
plans? Yeah.
Well, I think I don't know that they actually want to come out and interact with us, one on one, but I do think that they want the world to be aware that, we're sharing this planet with them. The forests and the water and the air, we're not the only ones using it. And, we need to be a little more thoughtful and respectful about how you go about doing things, just leave a few of the trees standing and quit putting your garbage in the water and, take
Right.
care of all of our home, but I think that it's been a lot, having the internet helps a lot, but I think that when there's people like us come forward and start telling our stories, particularly when they include the stranger side of Sasquatch, I think that's really helpful for a lot of people who've been holding things in for a long time. It finally, it's like, here's somebody I can talk to, here's somebody I can tell my story to.
Yeah.
Even when I go to the conferences and stuff, it's even if I get up on stage and tell my story, people don't come to my table to hear my stories. They come to my table because they want me to hear their stories. They come with something that they've already experienced, something that's already touched them, and they need somebody to tell that to, or to ask questions about, get an opinion, or just know that they're not crazy.
Hmm.
Because I mean, you can go online and you can look at videos and you can, read reports and things like that. But if you don't actually have an experience or to talk to, well, it's not quite, you're not going to have that same validation. I mean, it's always good to be able to read other people's stories and say, hey, I was at that place and had a great experience, or something like that happened to me. But when you can actually have a conversation with somebody who's been there, that just means the world. And,
Yeah.
the more people that open up and start talking about it, the more people will become comfortable opening up and talking about it. And eventually it'll become not such a strange thing anymore. Eventually.
Eventually. Yeah. I actually okay, here's a kind of funny story. So I was looking for a new book to read on Amazon, and Tom Cantrell has a million books, and I was like, I really want because I have never read any of his books, and his story is so incredible that how could you not want to read one of his books? So I was looking through them through the list, and I was like, well, maybe I'll read some reviews to see which one resonates with me the most because there were too many to choose from, really. And I was reading a review from this one person who was like, he is incredible. He is he's, I don't know, his stories are great and he is totally just a great person. And I've also written a Sasquatch book and I've had these experiences. And so I was like, oh, this person seems interesting. Maybe I'll check out her bio because she had a bio on Amazon too. And it turns out, so she lives in Washington, but she has family in Detroit. And I lived in Detroit for about 5 years and I still live in Michigan, but there were a lot of really strange synchronicities. And she said that when she was in Detroit, she made contact with a group of Sasquatch people that lived to the north by the big lake. And I was like, what? Maybe she's contacting my friends because my friends have made contact with other human friends on the other side of the country. And so I was like, I wonder if this is like a networking thing that's happening. Maybe I should contact her. And I did, and we had a big conversation last night about everything. And it turns out it is the same group. That's why I've been wondering about this kind of behind the scenes Sasquatch networking effort going on. I feel like they really are trying to bring us together for
Yeah,
what I'm not sure, but it's really fun. It's fun
it
to
is.
experience. Yeah.
It is, and just the little synchronicities like that, the little things that you wouldn't expect, it's, you don't see it coming, but it happens all the time.
Yeah,
Just these little things that bring us together. And once you're aware and conscious of them, you see it a lot. And yeah, that's brought a lot of really wonderful people into my life. And of all the things that I've experienced through the Sasquatch, just the friends and that have become family to me. That's the greatest part of
absolutely.
all of it. Yeah.
Speaking of family, do you have any are your experiences with the Sasquatch people, are they with the same people? Like, do you have kind of long-term friendships with them, I guess I want to ask?
I believe so. Yeah. The clan that's up above the cabin back there, I kind of feel like all of the different drainages have their own, family. And I think they're all one big extended family, one big clan throughout the whole White River Valley area. But each drainage, I think, has its own particular family that spends most of its time there. And so, like when we go camping, the Sasquatches from behind the cabin will probably come and be visiting us at camp, but then they go back to where they normally would be. I don't think it's very much for them to travel a few miles at all. But
Yeah.
yeah, so like Mama Sasquatch and the tree catcher, and the family that knows me best is the family that lives out behind the cabin. But the family that lives up where we go camping, they are also very familiar with us. And um, I'd like to think that there's at least one or two of them that have been around since, the very beginning for me. But I know
Mhm.
that there are generations that have been raised in the time that I've been here. And,
Oh,
they've
wow.
had their own kids. And so I think maybe just that sense of familiarity of, the stability of having that same person and, being able to observe, I think they bring the kids to the edge of our civilization, our neighborhoods, just so that they can listen to us talk, learn our language and see how we move, see how we think, see how we function. Because we're all different, they can learn a lesson from everybody. And
Mm.
when they've got that one person that's been there for decades, that can become a really solid form of education for them, like this is a
Right.
good secure person to go and learn from here.
Right.
So I think, yeah, there's an extended family that is here, and I'm pretty sure they know me better than I know them, but I kind of hope one of these days I'll get to know them just as well. So
Right.
that's my
Well,
goal
maybe
anyway.
on some level they crave our friendship as well. Maybe
I
some of
think,
us, they're like, "Ah, you're a good egg. Let's keep you
yeah.
around."
Yep. Well, they were watching me when they were little. They watched me when they were teenagers. Now they bring their kids, maybe even their grandkids are now coming to see how, things happen around the cabin. So,
Yeah.
there's got to be some kind of an attachment there, some kind of nostalgia, if nothing else. But
Right.
yeah, we've got a connection going,
Oh, I love it.
at least with Mama Sasquatch, if none of the others, at least with her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I so I saw eye shine for the very first time the other night. It was
Well,
really, oh my
congratulations.
gosh, it was incredible. It was so cool. Um it was the first night that I'd gone back out since I got to Portland, since I came home from Portland. And I came out and I was just telling them about the trip. And then I looked over towards my left and all of a sudden I saw this like, and it was like really high up in the tree. It must have been 20 something feet up. I saw this kind of like orb manifesting and it was red and it was all spinny. And I was like, what is that? I haven't seen that before. And it was in the tree. And then I saw another one that was a little bit lower down, started like spinning and kind of like building energy. And then I saw another one that was even lower. And it was like, oh, it's the whole family. They're so, and
Oh, that's
I got
awesome.
them. Yeah, I got the message that they were really happy that I went out to Portland. I I think with like the grid work stuff, I think I might have made a connection to the Pacific Northwest clans a little bit more secure or like stronger. That was the message that I got. I helped them to be able to reconnect with, I guess, your
Awesome.
side of the country. So they were really happy. That's kind of the message I got. But yeah, it was really incredible. I'd never seen that before. It was so cool.
That was probably like your welcome home gift. That's what
Right.
I get when I go on a camp out or when I've been traveling somewhere. I get home and within a day or two, usually they'll leave something on the porch or my car, or there'll be a track or a vocal or something, some sign of that they're happy with how things are. You know, it's a welcome home and you
Yeah.
did great type of thing. You know, so I think
Yeah.
that's what you got there. You got your
Oh,
welcome home and your thumbs up
I love
and a
that.
beautiful gift, because that doesn't happen by chance. That's intentional. That's on purpose.
Oh
So.
yeah. And they were blasting that love frequency at me and I just started crying and
Oh,
was like, "Thanks guys. I missed you too." Oh,
oh,
yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, it was
That's so
fun.
cool.
I love being the weird lady in the woods crying at night.
Yeah, me too. Hey, it could be worse. We could be the cat ladies, you know?
Yeah, right?
If not for
So,
Sasquatch, I would be well into cat ladyhood by now.
oh yeah, me too. I mean, I've got 3 dogs. I wish I had more cats, but
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's just this I'm so thankful for this whole thing and thank you for coming on and talking about your book and your experiences and just being awesome. You're such a great resource. I mean,
Oh, well, thank
and like a
you.
support, you know what I mean? Like I found you randomly on online and you've really helped. And I'm sure you've
Well,
helped
I'm
a lot of
glad you
other
did.
people too, try to make sense of what they're experiencing.
I sure try. I do my best. And because I know what it's like to be kind of lost and confused and alone in this. And if I can help anybody, then I feel like I'm serving a good purpose. I'm doing
Yeah.
my part. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll turn this off and we'll continue our chat. So, thanks guys for
Okay.
watching. I will put all of your stuff in the bottom of the description and like where to get your book and everything and yeah.
Awesome. Thank
So,
you.
yeah,
I
of course.
appreciate that.
All right.
And it's been
Thanks
great.
guys. It
Thank
has
you.
been great. You're an awesome lady. All right, let me stop
So
this.
are you?